Hey, this is Bryce Johnson from Expedition Bigfoot. You're listening to the Paranomaly Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, ponderers of the paranormal. You are in the Paranomaly Zone, your place for all things paranormal, mysterious, and strange. My name is Patrick Koffenberg, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts, the paranormal poster boy himself. Yes, I sang that for some god-awful reason.
I heard that.
Yeah, well, how the hell shall I describe you today? The slowly recovering Michael Carbno, the slowly recovering from nerve ablation, and he is no longer cycloptic. Yay!
Yeah, my eyeball's much better.
I can see the white of his eyes once again. Yes, Mr. Mike Carbno himself. How you doing, my friend? It's good to see you. It's Friday night. It's podcast night.
It is Friday night. I'm good. What say you about yourself?
Oh, I'm just peachy.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you ask?
I can reciprocate the question.
Oh, okay. Good use of the word reciprocate, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, just popped into my head and out my mouth.
Oh, well, that's good. It didn't pop out somewhere else. That's good.
Yeah, well, if it would, it wouldn't have been very legible.
Well, if it popped out somewhere else and people could understand it, you'd be making money somewhere else off of that talent.
I would.
I tell you that right now. Part of a traveling circus. The man who speaks through his anus.
I'd have my own tent.
Yeah, with a lot of air freshener in that tent too.
Can you imagine what the carnival poster would look like outside the door?
Yes. Hooray, 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 step right up. I don't know what we'd call you there right now.
See the man with the loose anus.
The loose anus, the phonetic flatulence man.
I can sell CDs.
Oh man, the loose anus. I don't really like that much. That could be interpreted in far too many ways. Totally unrelated to what
I even take requests.
Right, but
what would you like to hear?
They have to be limited to like 4 words or less. Though.
Well, I have CDs of me doing the Gettysburg Address.
Oh, you do? Really?
I have one that is actually one track is actually me saying the complete 10 Commandments list.
No kidding. That's talent.
Yeah.
That is talent. Well, you know what, Mike? We've bantered back and forth about throwing in our ridiculous humor a little bit more, going back to kind of the original Alter Rail podcast type days. But I'm afraid right now someone tuning into this topic, this awesome topic, has already tuned out because we've spent 3 minutes talking about you speaking through your butthole.
But look at how many listeners we garnered.
Well,
when we were even at our most ridiculous.
Garnered. Okay. Anyways,
I'm popping out the words today.
Yeah, you are.
You should hear me fart that word out.
No, please don't. Please don't. But all jokes aside, it is good to see you, my friend. I hope your back is getting better. You said yesterday that you think you have been noticing a change for the better.
Yeah, it's getting to be more of an ache more than anything. The sharp pains and the spasms aren't really there that I can tell so far. It's easier to turn over in bed without screaming out in pain.
Oh, that's always a plus. Nice. Well,
it's good.
I'm proud of you.
It's still working its way through.
Very nice. Very nice. So there is hope. There is hope. There is the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel is slowly emerging, Mike. So that's good.
I'll still never be 100%, and I'm glad today in the mail I got my handicap parking placards.
There you go, man. There you
if
go.
I ever need them, I'm going to use them.
Yeah, and you got like your blinged out canes that you're utilizing.
Yeah.
So
my Celtic style cane.
That's pretty sweet.
I should just use my shillelagh. That's pretty cool. Anyway,
I just like hearing you say the word shillelagh for some reason. Yeah. I don't know why. But
it's kind of got a wee shillelagh.
There you go. That works. Well, yes. Again, Patrick Hoffenberg here, joined by my co-host with the Ghost, Mr. Mike Carbonell. Yep, we're going to talk all things paranormal, mysterious, and strange. And tonight is
no exception.
No exception by any means whatsoever. Sick and Twisted, perhaps. Well, it's not a Sick and Twisted episode, but darn near close. This is bizarre and eerie at the very least. We're talking about the haunting of perhaps the most notorious serial killer ever, Mr. Ted Bundy, Theodore Robert Bundy. We did an episode, The Haunting of the Night Stalkers, one of our final episodes from the Alternate Route podcast, and that proved to be very, very popular. This one hopefully will be just as well received. This is eerie again, Mike. This is creepy. We're talking about the man himself when he was alive, potentially haunted by who knows what, and also his lingering ghost.
Yeah, he supposedly has been seen in a few places.
And, that goes right along with our belief, Mike, our personal belief that no, ghosts are not limited to one physical location.
No, absolutely not.
They do not exist in this in our realm of existence. If you're listening to this, I'm sure you know that already. There is no such thing as space and time for these ghosts. Physically, that is. So
yeah.
Why not, man? Why not? Why could there not be intelligent, definitely residual energy spots from the same, I guess, source, but maybe not intelligently speaking? We'll dive into that for sure, but this is a fascinating topic, and I'm looking forward to diving into it. So what say you? Shall we, Mike?
We shall.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're done. Bye. So, yeah. That's all we're going to do. We're going to switch the podcast format to all we do is we spend 10 minutes introducing the show and then we leave.
That almost is how it turned out today. That's all we would have had.
Right. Oh, boy, oh, boy.
We always pull something out at the last minute if we feel like we need to switch things up a bit.
Now, we did do a Sick and Twisted episode years ago focusing on Ted Bundy, so we're going to leave out all the gory details, the tragic facts behind this troubled, demented, evil soul and the wretched path of destruction that he left on this earth. We're going to leave out all that stuff because chances are, if you're listening to this, you are familiar with Ted Bundy, and chances are you know the story.
What age group would you think that you would get to where if you asked them if they knew who Ted Bundy was and they said no? Like the age group of your daughter or older?
Well, both of our daughters are very familiar with Ted Bundy.
Sure. Well, because they're around you too much.
No. Well, I don't. You know what? That may have a part in it, but I don't think so.
That may have a part, which I think is awesome because I think about how I grew up with my father and what I learned. What a lot of other kids had no idea about until a much later age. So it's good to know these things.
Sure. No, I gotcha. But it's seriously though, Ted Bundy, just the name Ted Bundy still reverberates.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, there have been recent movies made about him still.
Yeah.
I mean, there, several of them, Zac Efron, for crying out loud. Hunky, dreamy Zac Efron portrayed him in a Netflix movie, 2 or 3 years ago. So, yeah, the youth of America definitely still exposed to Ted Bundy and his crimes. And my guess is it's always going to be like that. There's just something about Ted Bundy that just sets him apart from all the other, gross, notorious, horrible, awful serial killers. It just is.
I think a lot of that.
Go ahead, Mike.
A lot of that may have had, besides the content of what he did and everything, but then his court fiasco that he created and made afterwards. I mean, he was kind of a nut at times during those court hearings.
Well, yeah, he definitely. Well, he loved being the center of attention. There's no doubt
that's what he made sure
that.
He was.
And he liked to think of himself as a lawyer. He got to play lawyer, on TV, and he was an intelligent man. Yes, he was, and he went to school for law. He got a degree in psychology. He didn't get anywhere close to being an actual lawyer, but he had fun portraying it, and he can pull it off just because he could articulate himself, and I hate to say it, he could charm people out of their socks.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of people unfortunately fell victim to him. So that's obviously that's what sets him apart by most serial killers. Serial killer standards. I mean, people think of serial killers and they think of these hunched over, gross, like monsters lurking in the dark and
and the planning and preparation he put into all these things, like how he fixed his Volkswagen for hiding a person on the floorboards of the passenger side of his car.
Yep,
took the seat out and everything, and I mean, there was a lot of planning and thought that went into all his stuff, like his tool kit or whatever that he brought with him. And,
his death kit, essentially. Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, it was.
Anyway, he's dead.
He is.
But he's a ghost. He's the non-dead.
That's kind of the focus of this. Well, it is the focus of this episode. Partly, the other half.
Partly, yes.
The other half is when he was still alive. Let's start with that one, Mike. We did touch on that briefly on our Sick and Twisted episode from the Ultimate Route podcast years ago. So let's talk about it again now. Then I'll try and be as brief as I can because I really, really want to get a healthy back and forth banter with you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
To the point, quick and to the point. Ted Bundy himself spoke of what he referred to as the entity.
Right.
And he, according to Ted, this entity is something that resided within himself, that spoke to him, guided him, told him what to say. And this entity's strength, for lack of a better word, would slowly build inside of Ted over a course of time. Just trying to push him and push him and push him towards his murderous impulses. Until Ted could no longer, I'm doing this air quotes, control the entity, and he had to act out and he had to go murder. That's what Ted said. And he said, like, after the act was committed and he did his deeds after the murders, we all know what he did, he would claim to sort of come to from a dreamlike trance. That's what he said. And he would go into a state of panic where he realized what he just did, and he would go to cover up his actions, and he would do any sorts of things to try and come back to reality, including, calling his then girlfriend on the phone in the middle of the night just to kind of ground himself, then just say, just so he could talk to her, try and feel normal again. That's what he said.
Bullshit.
But the part of, and yeah, I get it, Mike. It sounds, a lot of people.
He was maybe setting up for a insanity plea, or he was pushing out this.
Well, he refused. He refused to lay the insanity plea, even though I was
wondering about that.
Even though it would save his life, because he did not. He's like, I am not insane. I am fully aware of what happened. I do not forget things. I never had blackouts. I am not I'm not insane.
Except that he would say that after he committed these things, these atrocities, then he would come to and he would realize what he had done.
Yep.
But, I think it's his messed up psyche that is trying to make an excuse for what he has done when he's intelligent enough to where he knew what he was done, especially with all that preparation and everything that he had to do.
Sure.
Did he do that under the guise of some spirit telling him to take the seat out of his car or have the things with him to commit these crimes? No.
Well, that's part of what we're going to be discussing, and we are discussing right now. It's something, it's interesting to ponder, Mike. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that, no, he was 100% possessed by the devil or something.
Yeah. Was he trying to pillow feather his guilt feelings with, it was a spirit that told me to do this. Yeah.
Well, he described the strength. He described the feeling of this entity as like an addiction. Like he was trying, he would try to abstain from murder. He would try to bury the feelings that he had, that he'd had since he was a kid, basically.
He's really not a bad guy then.
Then it just got worse. Sure, right. Exactly. He's trying to hide his feelings. He's, it doesn't matter. Yeah. He felt bad about slaughtering those minimum of 36 women. He felt bad. So, let him be. Let him off the hook. Come on. Yeah, it's... But, describing it as an addiction is interesting to me, though, because it goes along with, the idea of this entity slowly overtaking him, where it's like he would, again, try to abstain from it, stay away from these feelings. He would try and go about his life, according to Ted, until it just overcame him and he couldn't do it anymore. So, we only briefly talked about that for about 5 or so minutes, but obviously I know what Mike thinks about that idea. You think that he's just using it as a ruse, as a guise, as a...
Yeah, it's the same thing as when I start to, be taken over by the spirit of a dog, and I start thinking that I'm a dog and I want to pee on a tree.
Okay.
And then I take an extra Cymbalta and I'm fine.
Oh, so that's how it works. So you're saying that okay. Okay, so I guess Ted just needed a Cymbalta and he would have been okay? Okay.
Sure.
Good. I thought you were going to say, an entity slowly overcame you to make a walk towards the refrigerator at night when you didn't want to, or something like that,
Yeah, I go for the box of Eggos and
no, you do not.
Syrup.
You've lost damn near 20 pounds, you've said.
About 17 right now still. Yeah.
Well, I'm rounding up.
I'm kind of stuck on 17 pounds, but
round up to 20. Round up to 20.
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds
I'll get there.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely will. Absolutely will. So, okay, backtracking a little bit here. Now, I know how Mike feels about this idea, and I'm not sold on it either. Oh, but Mike's getting a phone call here. Do we need to time travel already, Mike?
Absolutely.
Oh, we do? No kidding. Wow. Well, we're only about 17 minutes into it. Mike did warn me. He said that Mary was on her way home. She was going to call him, let him know to meet her at the door so they can both calm the doggy down together. We're just getting rolling here, boys and girls. This is going to be an early time traveling excursion. Please do not go anywhere. We shall be all right back. And we are back after yet another successful time traveling excursion. Mike, before I forget, there's one thing I came across. I think both of us came across this when we were doing our diligent research for this episode. The idea. Well, first off, how familiar are you with the term Djinn? DJINN. What pops into your mind when you hear that word?
I don't like it because it tastes like bile to me, and I don't like it at all.
Oh, sure. Oh, it tastes like pine needles a little bit, right?
It tastes to me bile. It's that really nasty. It's like when you get the dry heaves and how can you mix that with like anything?
Not that gin, Mike. DJINN, my friend. You clever, witty guy.
Of course.
What pops into your brain when you think of the DJINN, Jin?
Like an evil genie spirit type thing.
An evil genie. Okay.
Yeah. Aren't they is meant to be more like an evil entity or?
I always thought that I could be wrong. I could be way off.
Well, I
thought
could
that
be very wrong too because
I thought that they could go both ways. Kind of. That sounds terrible. It can be interpreted both ways, kind of depending on the source of what
Yeah.
or which reference.
They talked about it on I Dream of Jeannie once in a while, like the Jinn. And I don't think that she mentioned it as anything too bad.
Man, where's Barbara Eden when you need her, man? Oh,
yeah.
Darn it. Well, I just threw that out there because I came across this quote that says the entity, and I don't know where this quote came from, but it's dated September 1st, 2013. The entity that Ted Bundy described as having an influence on his murderous behavior could very well have been a jinn. In jinn lore, every person is born with a jinn that stays with the person for their entire life. So, I guess is that if, according to lore, every person is born with a jinn, stays with them their entire life. So I interpret that as, are you influencing the jinn more so than the jinn is influencing you? Because that, or is it purely an evil entity? Listeners, more educated listeners, help us out here a little bit when it comes to the lore of the jinn. But I just want to throw that idea out there, kind of connected to the supernatural aspect of the entity that Ted talks about. So it could be a bunch of BS, Mike. It could be. You never know. You never know. But yeah, this malignant being that Ted would describe as, being, residing in him and talking to him and causing him to, driving him to perform his atrocious acts. This is important. I need to point this out that several people who interviewed Ted Bundy, several people who were, well, I should say not necessarily several, at least 2 arresting officers who, upon putting Mr. Bundy in handcuffs and hauling him away, and including the last officer, whoever arrested him and finally put him away for good. Well, not the officer, but, brought him to justice, and he was then put away for good. When he was in the back seat driving him, and Ted was feeling the lowest of low, and he was telling the officer that he wished that the officer would have killed him back there, before, they got to this point. The officer said that he could not only smell. Now,
that's right.
Don't joke about this as much as you.
No, I'm not. I'll try anyway.
Smell a foul odor that began to emit from Ted. This isn't something that he noticed right away. Yep, exactly. There's Mike with the little farty sounds. Go ahead. It's okay. I know that was you. I know you're trying to fake me out because you covered your mouth there with your hand. I'm smarter than that, buddy. I'm smarter.
No, that's one of my techniques for proper sound.
Okay. But okay. Anyways, but this arresting officer said that Bundy began to emit this atrocious stench, this odor coming from his body, and his face, according to the officer, kind of became contorted.
Yeah.
Several interviewers have said that Bundy's eyes would turn black when he would get into like these meditative, almost trance-like states when he's recounting his murders. He would never ever fully admit his murders. He would talk about them in the third person.
Right.
He would never say like, I did this, I did that. He would always talk about it in the third person. And Macy has her opinion now too.
Too much.
An author of I believe the original book, one of the best books written on Ted Bundy, releasing. God darn it, Mike! You got dogs barking and phone. Turn your phone off at least, okay?
I did.
Apparently you didn't.
And I got my tablet here, and it comes across that too, and it's like, well,
man,
I got it all off.
Well, apparently you don't. You got to work on that.
There we go.
Okay. OFF. That's off. Not ON. That's on. So, anyways, an author of the book, one interviewing Ted, and when Ted would get into these deep states, these deep trances, almost recounting the tales, recounting his horrific acts. This is no joke. He said that a boil on Ted's cheek literally started to appear out of nowhere when Ted was in this trance-like state talking about these acts, and it actually went away the moment he kind of slipped out of it and stopped talking about these murders. What do you okay, first off, what do you think about that? That's crazy bizarre, whatever the hell it is.
There would be no question about what was going on if his head started spinning around. You know?
Yeah. I think the arresting officers would look at each other and simply yell, "Dude, run!" Yeah. So, I would.
Dude, run. Don't forget your gun.
Actually, I was going to say this earlier that when Mary called, I was like, I can just picture Mike actually has all of his. He's throwing a party with all of his pals, and Mary calls that she's on her way home. So Mike immediately turns to his pals and yells, "Dude, run!" Yeah. So, anyways, that was a long setup for a lame.
Yeah.
So okay, Mike,
it was worth it.
Your thoughts on Bundy? Emitting this odor. All jokes aside, his face contorting, his eyes turning black, and like literal boils and stuff grow. Not a boil is a wrong word. What? Well, maybe it was a boil, actually. Now that I'm thinking.
Well, it's like a metamorphosis of
what the hell's going on there?
Shape shifting, maybe it was just a shape shifting of his face and not like a large pustule that could pop at any time as it gets bigger.
Ooh.
I don't know.
So,
to me, it sounds like, okay, now this, this is allegedly had happened, or it was reported as an actual occurrence from the arresting officer.
Yes, the arresting officers took note of it, and interviewers took note of it. And I've listened to them. I've read their excerpts about this, and I don't know why they would be making that shit up.
Seen by him and his partner, or just him?
Well, the one where he's in the back seat, when Ted was in the back seat and he started to really stink, and his face became
really stink.
His face became contorted. That was just the arresting officer. There was no one else with him. Yeah.
Which still doesn't. I mean, to me, that still doesn't take any legitimacy away from it being it's just him. But to me, if I were a believer in this type of thing, I would say it's like a demonic possession. Maybe the jinn is actually possessed his body, and who knows?
It's like his body is struggling to contain this malignant force,
right?
That's in. It's actually to the point where it's actually starting to physically change his appearance.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like demonic possession to me. Maybe there was something inside of him that made him do these things. Maybe that's a spirit that was, or whatever it was. Maybe it was actually inside of him, a real entity that he heard the voice and made him do these things.
If you're new to the program, new to the show, new to the podcast, you need to understand how big of a deal that is for Mike to say to say demonic possession, or that he's, there is a demon, an evil entity inside of him, because Mike really struggles to come to an agreement with that possibility.
Yeah.
But you've been coming around slowly but surely, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'll always 100% go with that, yay or nay.
See, I don't know if you noticed, Mike, but even when you said that, maybe I'm imagining it, but it looked like you were struggling to control your grin when you said demonic. You're laughing right now too. It just makes it giggle.
At least while I was saying that, I didn't have some large boil pustule coming out of my cheek and my eyes turned black. And
yeah, that's true. A
foul stench. Well, that could have happened anyway.
I was going to say, Mary's not complaining about the foul odor in your house right now. So that's good. That's a
hey,
plus.
Mike, what's that smell? That's usually
demon.
After we go to bed and I shake the covers.
Oh, thank you for saying the covers. I got terrified for a minute when you said go to bed, and I shake. I'm like, no. I don't want to know what you're shaking underneath the covers there, Mike.
My foot
Lord.
twitches once in a while.
Okay, whatever.
Doesn't really shake, but
It's enough. Enough. So
okay.
again, I don't know where I sit on this one, Mike. I'm open to it. I'm definitely
Yeah,
open to
absolutely.
the idea. And if for argument's sake, let's say that Ted Bundy was haunted by a malignant spirit his entire life, and the older he got, the more powerful it became because it was just there since childhood. Let's just go with that for argument's sake. If that is the case, well, as you said, Mike, it's almost as if it would give Ted the man an excuse, and we're not here for that at all.
No, absolutely not.
There is never an excuse for that awful, awful human being. One of the worst human beings to ever walk this planet. But it makes you wonder, and it makes you try to. Well, me personally, and I think you as well. It makes you try to think about the differences, if there are, between demonic and simply evil. Is it a demonic possession? Is it an evil spirit that is possessing him? Or is there even a difference? Is there a difference, Mike, to you between an evil spirit and a demon? A demonic entity? That's kind of a tough question, but
I think the
can you
demonic
delineate
entity,
between the two?
the demonic entity, I would say, is a much more serious and capable of more evil, I believe. An evil spirit could be something of a lower level demon, maybe, that it just doesn't sound as extreme,
Sure.
An evil spirit could be somebody that died and is a ghost, and they're pissed off and they're out for revenge, maybe. I don't know.
Or they were an asshole in real life,
Right, and that carries on.
Yeah, why wouldn't it?
Sure.
Fascinating.
And when I die, I'm going to be exasperatingly funny still.
Well, I don't want to think about you passing away, Mike, but if that,
Yeah, well,
if you
I was
if you happen to go before me, to that,
where I'm going first.
you're gonna come right to my house, and you're gonna start making phantom fart noises. I know that's what you're gonna do.
The first thing I do, I've told you,
You're gonna slap me.
I'm going to slap you across the face, because I've always told you that's what it's going to take. And you're sitting like, fondling all your Star Wars toys.
Fondling my Star Wars
toys. And I'm going to
toys.
come and I'm going to slap you right across the face. I'm gonna Will Smith the shit out of you.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay. I got it.
And
I got it. Well, I hope
then
I won't
you're gonna
ban
know.
you. I won't ban you from 10 years from the afterlife,
Yeah.
or for 10 years from the afterlife. I ban thee for slapping me. Yeah, I can just see me right now. I'm sitting there at the kitchen table. I'm serving up, the kids a meal. Well, not the kids. That's not going to be that. It's way too soon. It's me as an old man. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at
You're trying to get rid of me now.
A pen levitates on its own. A piece of paper is pulled out from a file cabinet. It's laid upon the table in front of me, and a note is slowly written that says, "Hi, Patrick. This is Mike." A phantom invisible hand writing all of this, and I'll be sitting there like grabbing my chin going,
Yeah.
how can I debunk this?
Yeah. How can I debunk it? Yeah. I'll appear to you as Slimer. That's what I'll do.
Oh, I don't know if I want to see you covered in slime. That's kind of frightening.
Or as Egon.
Oh, Egon. All right. R.I.P.
I saw a clip from that movie.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, the best part of the movie.
And oh my God, I came across it, and I wished I hadn't seen it, but
yeah, that was a spoiler.
Because I haven't seen the movie yet.
That's a spoiler and a half.
Oh my God.
Spoiler and a half for you there.
Yeah, and then Bill Murray, like, I figured you'd be along. I loved it.
Yeah.
But I still need to see the movie.
Like I said, best part of the movie is the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, awesome.
So, Mike,
and he doesn't say anything. He just looks at him and smiles and shakes his head.
Yeah, well, how can he?
Nods his head. Anyway,
let's get into the alleged I could go on forever about this. And yes, I am.
Oh, yeah.
I am fascinated. I know far too much about this guy's life. I think that's safe for my health sometimes. Let's talk about some of these alleged hauntings that are going on now, Mike. The alleged sightings of the ghost of Ted flippin' Bundy. This is crazy bizarre. Now, just a few examples before we dive. We dive into some of the details here. His ghost has allegedly been sighted basically across the country.
Right.
Down at the site in Florida of his most atrocious night of murder at the Chi Omega sorority house. His ghost has been reported to have been seen there. His ghost has been reported to have been seen at the site of his own execution in Railford Prison in Florida.
It says here still haunts the Northwest even.
The Northwest.
So he gets around.
Well, that one I believe you're referring to. Some people claim that his spirit has been spotted in like the woods where his victims were found. All over in Colorado and Washington,
right.
Utah, just all over the place. His spirit supposedly spotted sitting in the electric chair, at least the area of the electric chair that put him to death. So on and so forth. Just crazy, bizarre stories. Let's talk about it a little bit. What are you saying for?
It's just amazing. I'm just perusing over this a little bit.
Sure.
There was also the possibility that Ted Bundy killed an 8-year-old neighbor girl in 1961.
Yeah. I believe her last name was.
God.
I believe her last name was Culver. Was it Culver? Supposedly, possibly the very first murder that he committed when he would have been 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing I was thinking earlier about. What was his childhood like? I mean, was this something that if he was possessed by something, would it have been coming from way back?
Well, let's talk about that real quick because a house contractor has claimed upon visiting Ted Bundy's childhood home that he has encountered some paranormal activity, Mike. He says that Ted Bundy's childhood home is, for lack of a better phrase or term, haunted. What do you think about that being a possibility if it was a malignant haunting, Mike, of that affecting a young Ted Bundy and setting him off on his path of destruction? What do you think about that?
Well, sure. I mean, it depends on what did it do to this and how messed up was he in the first place to have something like this really twist his mind to a point of changing the rest of his life for the worst, it's possible. Why not?
Especially if it was an unbelievably traumatic, event. Let's say, again, not making excuses, but
right.
Maybe Ted was very susceptible to being influenced. He claimed to have had a normal childhood, but he didn't. You do a little bit of research into his childhood. He had a very abusive grandfather. He was a bastard. He didn't know who his real dad was. He found out that he was the dad that he always thought was his dad was actually his grandfather. He didn't find that out until he was a young man, and that really set him off, Mike, because he's like, well, who the hell am I? Now, just think about that for a second. Think about that ripping apart your psyche. Just like believing you
that's
are.
what these things did.
Yeah.
Especially when he thinks, and if
Macy wants to put her 2 cents in again tonight.
Especially if he thinks that, as an adult, he thinks he had a normal childhood. Is that his messed up mind thinking that what his childhood was normal? I mean, if that's true, he is really messed up.
Sure.
From a very early age, if he thinks that's normal, but it did set him off. So it wasn't normal to him at that time. Since it set him off so bad and messed him up. he would have to have known at that time that it wasn't normal for him to be, to react that way and have it affect him in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And again, I don't want to dive into all of his messed up childhood, all the weird things that did happen to him and the weird things that he did do. But it should be noted that as a very young man, I believe when he was 4, maybe he's 6, but I believe it was 4, when it was either his aunt or his cousin staying at his house, and she woke up in the middle of the night. This is true, Mike. This happened. She woke up, I believe it was his aunt, in her bed, the guest bedroom, with little young 4-year-old Ted Bundy standing next to her, and she had been surrounded by knives that Ted had found in and about the house and laid them all around her while she was sleeping. 4-year-old kid. What the hell is going on there? And what does that tell you? I do not know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's all I got to say about that. Thanks. I appreciate
And
you.
and that at that young of an age, what did he experience? What did he see? How did he learn to do that this would be something that, like a knife, obviously, I could kill somebody with this.
Ugh.
At a young age of 4, what was he subjected to have this as even a thought in his head?
Was it an entity telling him to do it for some reason that he didn't even understand why?
There you go. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what happened. Not at all.
No, but it's definitely something to ponder.
All right, this news report here, abc13.com. I'm going to go through this as fast as I can because we have a lot of stuff to get to here.
Yeah.
This is about his childhood home. When after completing work on Ted Bundy's childhood home, one contractor claims the property is haunted. He says his visit there just didn't go normal. His second visit, this guy's name is Clopton, last name Clopton. Clopton brought his young daughter into the home, and he says when he walked his daughter into the home, she started crying. Okay, I mean, that happens. That happens. He said he just chalked it up to a little girl being scared of the dark. But then things got even weirder, according to the article here.
Was his first name Eric by any chance?
No, this is Clopton with an O.
Clopton. Okay.
The construction crew here at Ted Bundy's childhood home began to hear jiggling doorknobs and footsteps, mysterious footsteps coming from nowhere. The crew would
lay down Sally.
The crew would arrive to the site, the home of Ted Bundy, to see open drawers and cupboard doors. I think someone on a certain podcast co-host has seen stuff like that several times. I'm talking about you, Mike. And the unplugged electric fireplace, would still be releasing heat. Now, is that somehow possible anyways?
Not well. Is it possible for it to be releasing heat if it's unplugged?
When it's unplugged, yeah.
No. I would say no.
Unless it was just immediately unplugged after being on all night. And you could still get the residue of the heat, maybe. But Macy is really loud. She's really into this episode tonight. She's been so good for so many episodes.
Yeah. Not tonight.
On another occasion, the construction crew said that a large dresser that was built into the wall tipped over and moved over across the hall and then fell on its face. That's a lot of movement for a dresser built into the wall.
Yeah.
On its own. Holy shit. Good Lord. The crew also claimed upon arrival at Ted Bundy's childhood home one morning, they found the word leave written in the dust in the middle of the floor. Now, the alarm had not been triggered, and no footprints were found in the dust. So they're going, well, how the hell did this get put in there? No one was in the house. The alarm didn't go.
Paranormal.
So they said that the crew eventually began to pencil Bible verses onto the walls, brought a pastor into the house to bless the home, and the things finally began to calm down. So that's crazy. That's a crazy, short, brief story right there. Childhood home.
Yeah.
What do you think about that potentially influencing Ted Bundy's life, Mike?
Well, absolutely. If
why
this
not?
was, yeah. Traumatizing. Now, did you say that this happened? This was going on when Ted Bundy was a child?
No. This was
after.
This was recently. This was like 2016 or something.
Well, maybe Ted Bundy as a ghost went back to his childhood home and is spending enough time
Ooh.
doing things there.
Okay, so he wasn't influenced by an entity already in the house. He's actually back there now.
Because we don't know if there was an entity there or these things are happening as he lived there as a young child.
Right.
So, I'd be more likely to think that it's Ted Bundy doing these things.
According to my trusty notes here, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's my thing right there, annoying everybody by shaking my trusty notes. Ted Bundy's ghost spotted at Railford Prison, the site of his execution, by several security guards who worked there. They claimed that immediately upon Ted's execution, immediately afterward, several guards might claim to have seen Ted wandering through the prison. They say they saw him outside of his cell block. They said that he looked at them with that weird, slimy grin of his.
An intelligent, not a residual.
They say they saw him sitting in the electric chair with a calm, reassuring look on his face.
Mm-hmm.
They also, this is true. This is a true claim from these security guards. Several guards. So many came forth with this that they actually had to be told not to talk about it anymore by the warden. Mm-hmm. The warden's like, shut up. I don't want this getting out, basically. I don't know why, but he told them not to. They also claim that the ghost of Ted Bundy that they saw outside of his cell spoke to them, and he said, I beat you all to it. What do you think he meant? If this happened, several people claim it did. They see several versions of Ted's ghosts in several different places in the prison. And the one that responds to them and speaks to them says, I beat you all to it, with that grin on his face. What the hell do you think that's supposed to mean?
I don't know. The other side, he beat them to, I don't know, the next existence, to death.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It could be interpreted in many ways if you think about it, I'm sure.
And I get the sense of like the supposed ghost of that they see sitting in the electric chair with that grin on his face. I get the sense that even in the afterlife, he's mocking people.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking, it's just like a real snarky kind of attitude, that the ghost is giving.
Does that reek of an intelligent force, Mike,
sure
or a residual force? Is it just like the residual force of his arrogance and his mocking nature is just still there? Or do you think it's purely intelligent?
Well, that's possible. I mean, but I would say it's more of an intelligent.
Yeah.
Especially when he stops and turns and looks at him and then speaks to him. That's,
What do you think about the idea of his ghost being sighted immediately after his execution? Like immediately, the same night.
Why not? He was put to death and his spirit's not going to go anywhere. It's not like it's, looking for the white light to go into. He's probably there wandering, having fun with everybody.
Maybe he's happy because he realizes that he's like, shit, I'm not in hell. I'm just here.
Yeah, and he's free.
Oh, man, I just kind of gave myself chills there, and you added to him by saying that he's free. He is free now. Oh, Mike, that was great. I'm serious. That you kind of gave me chills there because there's no denying that Ted did not want to die. He was afraid of dying. I mean, it's so ironic. It's so evilly ironic that a man who killed so many so maliciously.
Maybe that's part of why he killed so many, is because he could control death by dealing it out.
That's another great point, Mike. Yeah, he was so afraid of it that he was like,
"This is what happens when I don't drink for a podcast."
Oh, come on now. So what are you saying? You saying
either that suck? Or my Neriva is really kicking in.
I'm having my Coors Lights. I sound fine, don't I? I'm okay. I'm making some good point. Listen to you. Yeah, sure. I'm going to take over the podcast.
I'm being snarky.
I'll call you Ted from now on. Good Lord. Mr.
But you think of the devious mind of this guy when he was alive. If he still has that intelligence in the afterlife, and he's, he's doing whatever he wants to.
Yeah.
And he's free and he knows it.
Yep.
And that's basically what he said by looking at him with that smile.
Yep.
Even after being put to death in the electric chair, he's sitting there
and he's
after
like,
being dead.
He's like, I'm still here and you guys can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And how many murders have been committed since he's been put to death that the cops are thinking it's a copycat killer of Ted Bundy, but it's not. It's actually really Ted Bundy. Ted out there doing his thing.
Ted, Mike, becomes the entity himself.
Right.
Man, that's another fantastic theory. I mean, it's not fantastic. It's awful. It's horrible.
Well,
but
yeah.
you know what I'm saying. It's fascinating to me. Wow, because that kind of answers a doubtful thought I had earlier. Is like, well, why? Ted was so terrified of death. His last months in Railford prison were just, he was so desperate to live. He was, farting out all these confessions just to try and get more and more time.
Yeah.
He wanted to be spared as much as he could, and he'd withhold just enough information. He'd say, I want to tell you this, but I need more time, because he's just trying to, put off his death. And he's miserable and he's terrified. It's like, why would he want to come back to this prison? Why would he want to spend the afterlife in this place of torment and just sheer awfulness? And that kind of answered my question, Mike, a little bit. They said, well, he's free and he's there to torment everybody still.
That's why he's been seen in so many places.
Yeah, damn. And again, ghosts do not exist in our our understanding of our physical existence. Obviously, no barriers for the spiritual, Mike, or not even the spiritual. No barriers for the spiritual. That was a bad term. No barriers for those who have passed over.
No earthly barriers or time barriers or anything. So
they can be seen all over the world at any number of times, any number of places, because to them, they're just that it doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, I got to catch the 6:00 red eye to Paris tonight. Damn it. I'm going to miss my ghostly flight. No, that doesn't work that way.
Time is only a human living constraint.
You're very well said. Very well said.
It's made up. It's not even real.
And the idea of him sitting there in the electric chair too, Mike, and just smirking and mocking them. He's like, see, you guys killed me right here. And guess what? I'm right here,
Yeah.
Man, did we cover all that stuff? Oh, there was. Oh, before we wrap up our section on our section of this episode, the haunting of Ted Bundy here. Stick around for the last call, by the way. We got a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is crazy. Don't miss it. We're going to dive into Bat Squatch, boys and girls. Yes, you heard me right. Bat Squatch.
Crazy enough, it's something that I have never heard of.
I know it's going to be good. Yeah. Last call. Yay or nay? No shades of gray. Mike and I, we have to decide. We have to choose real or fake or what have you. It's. I love the last.
I think I've already made up my mind.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. I'm interested.
No, not really. Oh. We need to discuss it.
Absolutely, we do. My God.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you want to listen to our original Sick and Twisted episode that we did about Ted Bundy, I think we did. Did we do 2 parts? Maybe just one. But it was a long one.
Not sure.
For sure. Go check out our Patreon page. You can find that and over 200 other exclusive posts. I am slowly but surely removing all of the alternate route podcasts from all social media streaming services. They no longer exist out there. The only way you can listen to them is via our Patreon page. Got about 140 alternate route podcast episodes on there now. Even Nonsensicast radio episodes are there, and including 40. You heard that right, 40. Patreon episodes we recorded exclusively for our Patreon page. Starting last May is when we recorded our first Patreon exclusive episode. We're over 40 right now. My gosh, Mike, we're doing good. We're pumping them out like it's like there's no tomorrow, and it's good quality stuff. We're having a good time. You can
So
go
we've been
there.
doing Patreons for like a year now.
We started last May, man. We started last May. So that's
Holy
pretty
crap.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. So we'd love to see you guys there. You can sign up. You can listen to all those archived episodes for as little as $1 a month. You want to pay $5 a month, you get access to everything, including our own ghost hunting video and ghost hunting audio, our own captured evidence. It's pretty cool, fun stuff. If you enjoy the podcast where you're listening to right now, you're going to love the Patreon page. Simple as that. Give it a shot for 1 month, as little as $1, no obligations. Okay, cool. Got that out of the way. Well, Mike, the Chi Omega house where he, like I said, he had his most horrendous single night of murder. He damn near killed 5 women. Brutally, attacked 5 women. 2 of them died.
Extremely violent.
2 of them died. 3 of them damn near died, were affected for the rest of their lives. 2 different houses, by the way. He attacked 4 girls in Chi Omega and then wandered down the block, 2.5 blocks, busted into another woman's house and attacked her. He was just in a blind rage. This is when he was an escapee from his second term in prison. The second time he escaped from prison. And he made his way to Florida. Hadn't killed for a month, as much as we know. Maybe he did. But again, Mike, he hadn't killed for years. He had been in prison. You can imagine the pent-up urge that he had to just let out. And boy, did it come out in one awful night. Supposedly his ghost is still seen at the Chi Omega residence.
Yeah, that's crazy.
How terrifying is that? To think that now would that be a purely malignant evil residual to you, Mike, or do you think that is? I mean, we don't know. There's no way we could know. What feelings do you have about that supposed?
Maybe he's going back
sighting?
looking for the women that survived.
Oh my gosh, man, that's a wicked thought. Some people claim, some of the survivors and some of the residents at Chi Omega claim that that night when the attacks happened, that the ghosts of the girls who were murdered actually came to save other girls by keeping them in their rooms and not leaving their rooms. Imagine that. Imagine that being legit. That is just it's moving and it's powerful.
So within their murders, they became working towards being heroes.
Right.
Just not their thought of being heroes, but just wanting to prevent what happened to them after their death.
Right.
That's like a whole story in itself.
It's
That
very,
is just
like I
amazing.
said, that's sincerely moving to me. It is. It's just like it.
Yeah.
Just imagine in their moment of death, after death, and they're there to be protectors now, and they're saving their friends. One final thing, because we're coming up on an hour for the haunting of Ted Bundy. This has been great. I could talk forever about this sick man, but the idea of his ghost and him being haunted himself is utterly fascinating. Supposedly, some people claiming to have evoked the spirit of Ted Bundy via a Ouija board, Mike. A Ouija. Supposedly, they said the message they got back, and I'm going to not exactly copy it verbatim, was, I cannot touch them. I cannot kill them. This is my hell. That's supposedly what when they claim to be conjuring up the spirit of Ted. Why would you want to contact the spirit of Ted Bundy, by the way? I mean, come on. That's what people claim. That's what some people have claimed.
Well, if that's his message and he's stuck here on Earth, if there is that thing where he's stuck here and he's trying to do what he did in life, and all these ladies are doing is laying there sleeping, and he cannot harm them, that would be his hell.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Man, I hope if he did survive this earthly existence and he is in the other dimension right now, I hope it is his own personal hell. That's all I'm saying right now. So F off, Ted. You deserve every bit of hell that is laid upon you.
Yeah. I feel we've given him too much energy just by talking about him tonight, but
Well, you know what? Chances are he's
It's-
not listening to the podcast, but I hear you, man. I hear you.
think of it about education of the evil.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Mike, gosh, what a better way to wrap it up, though. Coming up almost exactly an hour, a little bit over an hour. Hang on, everybody. This has been a blast. Don't miss our last call on, yeah, you heard us right, Bat Squatch. This is going to be good. I can't wait to talk about it, Mike. So, Mike, until then, what do our awesome paranormal pals need to do?
Just try the best you can in this world that we are living in today. I know it's hard, but peace out.